I'm joined now by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
So, I want to talk about what's happening in your state of Texas because these Texas Republicans have targeted you, among other of your colleagues that are in the House right now. Your reaction, first and foremost, to folks like Greg Abbott, John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, Donald Trump, and the Speaker of the Texas House for going through with this plan to deprive you of your ability to represent your constituents.
Yeah, so that was a long list of losers that you just laid out. And essentially, that's what it is. They're like, you know what? We know we're losers. And so the only way that we can win is if we cheat. And that's exactly what we are enduring. But I've got news for them. It doesn't really matter where they draw the lines. I will be able to win a district in the state of Texas because I feel like I have strongly represented for my district, so Congressional District 30, while they drew me out of my seat, they drew me actually into Mark Vesey's seat. What is most alarming, though, is we have three Democratic reps in North Texas, and that's myself, it's Mark Vesey, and it's Julie Johnson. What they have decided to do is in super blue Dallas, Texas, in super blue not only just super blue Dallas, Texas, but super blue like DFW area, as well as super diverse. Like, let's talk about the diversity. There is so much diversity in this area. They have decided that they were going to chop and screw these districts to the extent that those diverse voices would be diluted. When we did the math, if you are an African American in the state of Texas, and Texas has more African Americans than any other state, then your vote only counts one-fifth as much as an Anglo in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
You are Latino, your voting strength is only one-third that of an Anglo in the state of Texas. And that is what we are talking about. We are talking about the fact that Republicans are now saying, you know what? We don't trust those diverse voices because we know we have a white supremacy agenda. So therefore, we are going to make sure that they don't participate because they are not going to go along with this anti diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda that we have that is defunding healthcare, that is defunding access to capital for small businesses, that is defunding education. That is why they don't want us to be able to speak up and have our own voices.
Do you have any confidence that other Democratic governors, like Governor Newsom in California, Governor Pritzker in Illinois, that them pushing back might have something of a deterrent effect? Or do you think that these guys are just, blinders on, continue going and there's nothing that's going to stop them at this point because Trump said jump, they say how high?
I think if they were reasonable, I think that if they cared about the work, I think if they listened to the people, then yeah, they would care. But that's not who these people are. They could care less. All they do is they take the power and then they ignore the people that put them in power. What they do instead is they pledge their fealty to some idiot who obviously is struggling mentally, whether it is mental decline or whether it's not he's ever had the capacity. They have decided that they are going to do whatever it is that he wants them to do instead of doing what's right for Texas. One of my colleagues, Sylvia Garcia, continues to say, I never thought I'd see the day that a Texan would bow down to a New Yorker, right? Like we know how Texas has this next level pride the same way that New York does, but that's exactly what we see happening. So the only thing the Democrats can do is they can decide that they're going to sit there and be the nice guys that we have always been, the ones that always want to take the high road, or they can decide that there is a fight that is being waged. And while we didn't start it, we will finish it and make sure that we finish it on behalf of the American people and democracy.
What's your message to those state reps who've fled the state and look, who are getting fined $500 a day, even though their salary is $600 a month, who are right now living in not exactly optimal conditions and contending with bomb threats right now as this last line of defense to stop this special legislative session from moving forward?
I think that this is indicative of where we are in this country. I first want to say to my former colleagues in the state house, you are the real superheroes. I will never stop championing what you're doing because I
Yeah.
understand what that sacrifice looks like. I obviously broke quorum in 21, but when we broke quorum in 21, it was definitely about kind of ringing the alarms, specifically on things like this. We were trying to signal to the rest of the country that it was so important that we get engaged. And so we went to DC. We wanted them to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, which, if the Freedom to Vote Act had passed, then Elon Musk couldn't have bought the presidency. We were trying to push them to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which, if it passed, then we wouldn't be in this situation as it relates to redistricting right now. We would have squashed all of that because those bills deal with these issues, right? And so we were trying to ring the alarms at that moment. But for a lot of people, I think that they saw the fight as like, oh, this is over voting rights and it's a Texas issue and that kind of stuff and whatever. But the fact that these Texans decided that they were going to leave their homes, that they were going to be bullied by cowards who want to arrest them. I mean, they are going harder on elected officials that are simply trying to make sure that their constituents' voices are not minimized. Then they're going on, say, getting the Epstein files. Like, we know that y'all know how to move, clearly, because y'all done called in the FBI and everybody else trying
Yeah.
to go after not pedophiles, right? Because we know that seemingly the commander in chief has a soft spot for pedophiles. Because next thing you know, we know that Ms. Maxwell was transferred to a cushier existence in a federal system, penitentiary system, right? But now you want to go after lawfully elected people whose constituents are not upset with them at all because they dared to do what democracy says we should do, which is
Right.
to represent. So, for those that don't understand, in our Texas Constitution, it specifically provides for breaking quorum. And this is one of those circumstances. And they're not doing it because they are the ones whose districts are on the chopping block. They're not doing it because they're concerned per se about individual congressional members. They're doing it because this country is on fire and it is time for people to see that we have a fire in our belly. There are Democrats that are willing to wage a ridiculous fight if it means that we're going to protect democracy. So I love them, I thank them, and I stand with them.
Perfectly put. I think what you said about the fact that these Republicans are showing us that if they want to get something done, they can. You've got the Speaker of the State House issuing civil arrest warrants. You've got John Cornyn going to the FBI. You've got Kash Patel saying, yeah, the FBI is at your disposal. You've got Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton going to the courts to try and deprive these people of their seats, to vacate their seats. And so if there's a will to get something done in the GOP, clearly these people are showing that they are not, that there's no stone that they won't leave unturned. And yet when it comes to the Epstein files, something that they themselves have been barking about for years and years and years, when they finally have the chance to substantiate what they themselves have been saying, their hands are tied. There's nothing they can do. They're not even willing to hold Pam Bondi to account, even though she said the files were on her desk. And so it goes to show when they want to get something done, they can, and when they don't, that's a conscious decision that they're making too. Which I guess leads me to this question here. The Oversight Committee has compelled the release of the Epstein files, and that should be done within 2 weeks. How confident are you that they're going to comply and that these files will be in your hands by the time that deadline approaches?
I'm pretty confident. I mean, this is a subpoena that came from the Republican chair. There was a bipartisan vote in one of our subcommittees on oversight that is led by the amazing Summer Lee out of the state of Pennsylvania. And so when they thought they were getting everybody out of DC in time, again, I tell people all the time that they may have the muscle, meaning that they have the numbers, but we definitely have the brains. So they are all brawn and we are all brains on this side. And so we were able to outmaneuver them because that's what we do. We actually think. And so, this is a subpoena that then the chair of the entire oversight committee then had to send out because there was the vote. And so this is coming from Comer. So this is coming from another Republican. Now, whether or not DOJ, gives us a trickle down or, how they treat it and that kind of stuff, who knows? We know that they are spending so many man hours on redacting Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with some trumped up reason to explain why any of the documents that have anything to do with him cannot come out. I mean, they will make up law, they will go to the courts that belong to them, like they will do a lot of things. So I think that we'll get something, but I think that, they will only give us what they want us to have versus fully complying with the subpoena itself.
What's your message to those Trump supporters who stake so much of their support for Donald Trump on this idea that he's going to finally do what so many other politicians wouldn't do, which is to expose this deep state cabal of elites who are above the law, who can operate with impunity and do heinous, vile things, who now very much seems to be entrenching the very system that he promised to expose?
What I really want people, whether they're a Trumper, a MAGA, Republican, independent, or former Democrat, right? Like, what I want them to do is evaluate, number one, what is government for, right? And evaluate how it is that we are choosing our elected officials. Government is not for enriching the people that are elected, right? This is why it is wildly popular to stop members from trading stocks. This is why, there should be more outrage at the fact that, probably at this point, at least 50% of Donald Trump's wealth has come just since he's gotten into office. Like, we should all be disgusted because we should have a government that has transparent and honest leaders that are strictly focused on us and nothing else. But honestly, when you have someone that consistently shows you that he has no relationship whatsoever with the truth, you got to start calling him out. You got to start understanding that there is a reason that he is constantly lying to your face. You've got to say, we deserve better. This is more so about what we deserve. We are supposed to be a government for and by and of the people. And let me tell you right now, from all of the foreign government interference that we've got going on ever since his first administration, from all the intermingling that he does with his businesses, with foreign governments and his family, from the crypto schemes, like, we should be concerned because it is clear that he is not putting America first. It is clear that he's not putting Americans first. The fact that we're in this crazy tariff war that is only hurting us domestically, like, this is a problem. Like, I don't want, what I would wish if I could like wave a magic wand is if people would literally not look at the R or the D in front of somebody's name.
Yeah.
They would just look and have like a little snippet, a little paragraph of what the people have done. Tell me about the bills they filed. Tell me about how those bills impacted people. I can tell you that I have worked on things such as the Democracy Restoration Act. I can tell you that I've worked on bills around protecting reproductive access. I can tell you that I have filed criminal justice reform bills that would make sure that we never had to worry about the crack cocaine disparities. Like, I can tell you things that people can look at and say, you know what, I agree with this or I disagree with this. And then you can look at somebody who says, I wanted to make sure that I gave tax cuts to billionaires at the expense of healthcare to people that needed it. I can say, you know what, this person decided they wanted a $200 million ballroom, and this is at the expense of USAID and impacting our soft power around the world. Like, I just need people to look at the substance of who people are instead of consistently following anybody, Democrat, Republican, or independent, blindly. That is why democracy is supposed to be so great, is because we are supposed to be the voices. We are supposed to be the ones that are running it. And right now, we've got a minutia of people. I mean, it's such a tiny group of people that are controlling all of us instead of the majority of us controlling our elected officials.
Yeah, and that was perfectly put. And I think the most egregious part of all of that is that this guy ran on a populist platform. He ran dangling promises, all the way going back to his first term, of infrastructure, of middle-class tax cut, of a jobs boom, of a manufacturing renaissance, a healthcare plan that was cheaper and more comprehensive, of cheaper groceries and eggs and housing and rent, of free IVF. He hasn't delivered any of that. The only thing he's expended his political capital on is a tax cut for millionaires and billionaires, both times. And now he's looking out for himself to the tune of $200 billion for a ballroom. He gave himself a $1 billion retrofitted jet that not a single one of these feckless Republicans could lift a finger to say, hey, maybe you don't get to keep a jet that costs $1 billion to the taxpayer, while you have Carolyn Levitt applauding the fact that he's donating his paycheck. So I think his paycheck would be like $33,000 gross. So the guy donates a $33,000 paycheck and hands himself a $1 billion jet paid for by American taxpayers. This guy is so clearly not looking out for any of the people who he conned into voting for him, all of the rubes that he conned into voting for him, while he continues to heap more benefits, more wealth onto himself. The guy doubled his net worth in like 6 months. I don't know how many people watching out there have gone from $2.5 billion to $5.1 billion in the last 6 months, but I presume it's not most people. And finally, let's finish off with this. Donald Trump's DOJ just announced that it's going after New York Attorney General Letitia James, and so we're seeing one more instance of the weaponization of the federal government at the hands of Donald Trump, going after his political opponents. So can I have your reaction to that move?
Yeah, I mean, you could see this a mile away, right? Like even a blind man could see it coming, because we know that this is a guy that campaigned and said, I will be your retribution. And that really translated into him seeking his retribution if he were to get into office. And what is so frustrating is that we have a guy that decides that he wants to say he's all about law and order, but if anything, he is the most lawless person that we have ever had. And this is not by any stretch of the imagination, considering the fact that he is the only president we've ever had that has been convicted of 34 felony convictions, on top of the fact that he had so many other outstanding cases. So to have the audacity to believe that he should go after someone who is duly elected, who has never been accused of a crime, who truly you are trying to trump up charges on, that's all we're seeing. The same thing with going after Jack Smith, right? The same thing with firing all of those that participated in the legal and lawful investigation of his wrongdoing while they were at the DOJ. Like people that are following the law, they're following the evidence, they're following the paper trail of documents that you took and stuffed into your gaudy bathroom and ugly ballroom. Okay. Like that's what they're following. Like they didn't make this up out of thin air, and so it is frustrating, but I absolutely knew this was coming. I absolutely see that there will be other political opponents that he will go after, because this is the only reason he wanted to be in office, was to, number one, stay out of prison, and number two, do his best to try to muddy the water and pretend like the real lawless people were the people that were actually doing what their oath prescribed, versus him, who basically is just a sexual deviant.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him, who is obviously been found liable for being a little less than truthful more than once, in civil context as well as criminal.
Yeah. Well, as always, I appreciate your fight and you taking the time today.
Absolutely. Have a good one.